David, thanks so much for your time. They seem like pretty big numbers. How worried should we be about these growing debt levels?
Look, you're quite right. I mean, look, Australia used to be a low debt country, a standout low debt country. In fact, we had zero net debt for a while there. Certainly from '04, that was a period of the commodity price boom. We were rolling in surpluses. The debt was low, but we have obviously had a big increase in the debt since then. And over that time period, it's certainly been bigger than other countries, as you point out. But over different time periods, other countries have run up their debt as well. The UK, the US, they've all had major debt increases, but we're certainly in amongst them in terms of that debt increase. And I think what it does mean is, we're still a relatively low debt country by those standards, but we're certainly nowhere near where we used to be. We're sort of closer to the pack now than being well away from the pack.
David, while I've got you, I wanted to ask your expectations around next week's budget. Do you expect we'll see a bit more bad news contained in some of those revised forecasts, which will be, of course, factoring in a lot of the instability we're seeing surrounding global tariff wars, etc.?
Yeah, look, it doesn't look like the Treasurer is going to be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat this time around. I mean, the last few years we've had surprise increases in revenue, and the budget ended up being in surplus, which was a surprise. But yeah, no rabbits this year, unfortunately. The revenue outlook doesn't look like it's going to materially be upgraded, so we are left with a deficit. And it's the slow growth of the economy. It's the ongoing weakness of commodity prices that are driving it. Obviously, there's been a few special factors with the extreme weather events we've had, but we do face a situation at the moment where we've made a lot of commitments in terms of social spending, but at the moment we haven't made the commitments to really pay for that in a sustainable way, and that's the great debate going forward.
Dave, the Treasurer Jim Chalmers acknowledged yesterday that by delivering a budget on the eve of a federal election, the economy will, of course, be front and centre, that this is going to be an election fought on economic issues. How important do you think it is that the major parties be restrained on the spending front with their campaign promises over the coming weeks because of the risks around inflation?
Look, I think it's very important. I mean, the economy is the private sector is gradually recovering, as the Treasurer has pointed out. It is relying on the RBA to cut interest rates. I think we don't really want to see a lot more public spending. It's really been boosting the economy in the past few years, and maybe keeping interest rates high for longer than they would otherwise be. So I think it's certainly pretty important not to have big spending policies. Again, yeah, as you mentioned, against the backdrop of a still large budget deficit, and inflation still not quite back at the target band.
David Bassanese, really appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much for your analysis, and no doubt we'll hear from you again soon with the budget due to be delivered on Tuesday in Canberra. And of course, here on Sky News, we'll have full coverage of all those numbers for you on the day. Thank you.